faceoff. Shoots it, deflected. Right in. Pietrangelo save rebound. Stastny stopped by Pietrangelo. I don't believe that save. Neither does Peter Stastny. He can't believe the save that Pietrangelo just made on him as Frankie sparkling on that maneuver there to stop and rob Peter Stastny. He should get 5 to 10 for that.
Hello and welcome to episode 90 of Tendy Talk, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network and the BLPA Podcast Networks. I'm your host, Joe, better known as Wash Up Goalie on social media. This week, I chat with Jeff Gipple, a goalie who I've skated with plenty, and he's even filled in for me for my beer league team. And most recently, this summer, he and I skated together at the Minnesotan pickup skates in White Bear Lake. Jeff is a cool guy with interests outside of hockey. So, without further ado, let's get to the conversation with Jeff. Jeff, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad. Work day's over, and it's not Monday, so we got that going for us. So, yeah. Well, hey, thanks for joining me on the podcast and being a little flexible. We were going to record Friday, but then me and my wife went on a nice little date. So thank you for being flexible in that regard.
Yeah, good thing you didn't forget too long and you got to didn't have to cancel that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of fun talking to you, having you on, because we actually skate together this summer pretty regularly. So that's kind of fun that we know each other on the ice as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As in years past where I always subbed for you. We never skated together.
Yeah, you have subbed for me a few times too, which is very appreciative. So, as I ask most people, how did you get started in this great game, aside from being a Minnesotan?
Yeah, I mean, I started skating when I was like 4, right? Because I'm a Minnesotan. That's what we do. Yeah. And then I became a goalie in squirt, and that didn't last very long. And I stopped skating for a couple years, then went back to being a skater, and then had kids, started a career, and then my son started to play, so that's what got me back into it. And we skipped skating and went right to goaltending.
So let's back up. You get started skating. What got you started skating? Was it, just the neighborhood thing to do, mom and dad? What got you into it?
Dad. He played youth, midgets, club, college hockey. So it was just what do what your dad says to do, and your dad likes playing hockey.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of funny because my dad would skate on, the flooded parks growing up, but never on a team or anything. And so he, when I said I wanted to play, he was like, okay. I can give you very little information in my knowledge of the game, but all right, let's try this. So squirts, you start playing goalie. Why did you decide to play goalie?
I don't even really, if I had to pick one thing, that was, when you first saw the one-piece masks coming out, or the combo, that was going away, and I don't know if that was just, really cool, or what. I mean, how old was that? 10? Something like that, right? So that was what looked cool, right? They were all, crazy paint jobs, and
yep.
And it was I wasn't the strongest skater either, so it was easy to go, well, I'm not a great skater, and this looks cool. So
yeah, the same could be said of you these days. No, that wasn't very nice. You're a good skater. I just picking on you.
I've gotten better.
But yeah, hey, you know what? We skate differently than everybody else. So we've said it on many of the podcasts. Goalie skating versus player skating is much different. And take the pads off of us, and we're zipping around that ice just fine.
Right.
So you said you started out as goalie around squirt and then got away from it. Why did you leave the net?
Um, the easiest way to explain it was, just typical youth sports politics. Somebody moved. I grew up in North St. Paul. Somebody left their association and they needed to make a spot, and I was, I don't know, the least qualified to retain the position. So they just bumped me and said, "You can skate or you can leave."
Yeah.
And that was a whole year into it. So I'd been not doing skater stuff for an entire year, and it's like, well, maybe we take a break and we try this again. I tried skating again in high school, but yeah, it was just they ran out of spots and I got bumped.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, that makes sense, and it's tough, and I that's one of the things I've struggled with in Minnesota is the lack of house league hockey. Because I'm going to guess if house league hockey was around at that time, you probably would have stuck with that to play goalie because you enjoyed it, but that wasn't an option. So it was like either I don't play or I skate out.
right, yeah, and then just youth hockey from one state to the other. Yeah, I'm learning about all these other places, and these things just don't translate. We're so unique here. There's so much hockey. There's no true house league, where
Yeah,
you just sign up and you get to play. That you can kind of say a
yeah,
lot of
we have it
Association
for
C is like that, but that's still a little tougher even than what it sounds like in other places.
yeah, and I mean we have house league for darn near every other sport, but not for hockey, which is fascinating to me. And you know, there's enough um, outdoor rinks and everything else where they could have some killer house leagues, but they just don't, and I've never understood why.
Yeah, I guess now
It,
that I think about it, like I know Minnesota hockey's got youth rec hockey, and it's very cheap, but it's like 2 practices and 10 games. It's so if you just want to just you know it's almost rough, like just beer league pickup.
yeah,
Nobody knows what they're doing, and that's not even right. That's even lower than what a normal house league would be. So there is an option, but it's just not a nice, easy middle ground.
right. Yeah, I mean, me growing up in Chicago, we had house league hockey, and I've actually heard somebody recently call it travel house league, and I liked it because what it would be the equivalent of like White Bear Lake, Forest Lake, and Mounds View. Each association
Hmm.
has 3 or 4 house league teams at each level, and they only play those other 3 associations. And then,
Sure.
so you're not playing the same 3 or 4 teams all the time. You got a nice 12 league team, but then, you're only going to those 3 rinks. You're not
No, that
traveling all over. You're not doing the weekend tournaments every week. It's just, consolidated.
sure that's not the same as what is it, the NIHL? Because I know is that just like, is that a select league?
No, yeah, that's travel hockey in Illinois, and that's where each association that has house league, they also have their travel
Okay.
teams, and that's the league the travel teams play each other.
Sure.
And
Sure.
again, when I was growing up, it was really only in the Chicagoland area. There was, I think, a team down in Peoria, Illinois. Now you have
Hmm.
them, Peoria, Springfield, Champaign, even outstate into Rockford. And, it's grown in the state of Illinois, not just around the Chicagoland area. But then you have the AAA teams like Chicago Young Americans, Team Illinois.
Hmm.
And now I think there's Mission and a couple others. And they're the ones that travel kind of like Little Caesars and Honey Baked Ham. They kind of go all over the place. Um,
Hmm.
but it's a different setup there. It's interesting because like I played for St. Jude, and we didn't play for our community or neighborhood. So you chose your association. So it wasn't based on where you lived; it was where you wanted to play. And then when I went to
Hmm.
high school, because Catholic schools are a big thing down in the Chicagoland area because public schools are so bad. If you want to do anything in life, you almost have to go.
Sure.
But so then, I was the only kid from my team that went to my high school, Brother Rice. Everybody else went to
Okay.
Marist or St. Lawrence. So it was kind of fun when we would play my school's arch rival. I was still playing all my buddies. So it had a little more of that rivalry aspect to it. Whereas here, you grow up with your buddies playing. In White Bear, you grow up, you play with your buddies. Then you go to high school and you keep playing with each other. So it is different in that aspect as well. So yeah. So you take that step away from hockey for the reasons you mentioned, and then like you said, you wind up having kids. And what got them interested in the game? Was it just because of all their friends were playing and they wanted to try it out, or what brought that about?
I'm sorry. I buffered a little bit. I missed most of that question.
Oh, I said, you take that break from hockey and then you wind up having the kids and they decide to play hockey. What got them into the game? Was it the fact that all their friends were playing, or were you like, I used to play this sport and it's pretty awesome?
Oh, no. It was all my son's idea. And if I remember, White Bear's got a program and they push it really hard, and it's clinic, so it's pre-mites. And the very first year, if you're 5 or something like that, is completely free. And so I was like, all right, it's free. Let's go do it. And now I think I spent $10,000 or $12,000 last year, so it has not stayed free. But
no,
yeah, it was just
they've learned from the drug dealers.
Yeah,
the drug dealers are great salespeople. Let's give them that taste. They want more.
right. Hey kid, try some hockey. You'll like it.
Yeah. It's that Dave Chappelle meme. You got any more of that hockey?
For sure.
But you said your son, did he go straight to goalie then? He just, because I know at mites they try and get him to skate out, but what was he like? Nope, not doing it.
So he ended up. Yeah, they don't like it full time. So it wasn't technically full time in his second year of mites, but it was one of those. Hey, everybody gets to try it, and we rotate the pads around the team. But then only like 3 or 4 kids tried it once, and nobody else tried it again. So there were times we were told, well, we'll just not have a goalie today, and you can skate out. And then by the end of the season, it was we're just gonna sneak into the pads and hope we don't get in trouble, because it was basically full time by the end of that season because nobody really wanted to do it.
And he was having fun and loving it.
Yeah. And so all of Squirts, all of Pee-wees, we're in our second year of Bantams. He's never taken the pads off.
Now, like my first year of Squirts, I played half and half. And after that, it was in the net. That's it. And I appreciated being able to skate out to, learn the game and become a better skater. Did you ever try and nudge them into playing out a little bit just to get more of that aspect? Or were you like, because I'm a firm believer, most goalies, and when I say most, like 98% of us, we know from the first time we're on the ice, we want to be a goalie. And did you just see that? And I'm like, it's not worth fighting it because he's half me. So it's a losing battle.
Yeah. I mean, we never suggested he go back. He has played the last couple summers as a skater in roller hockey.
Okay.
Only because it, where the Hippodrome is there's no air conditioning. It's just some big fans, and we're not. He didn't want to wreck the pads he had. We didn't really want to buy him an extra set of pads for roller, and it's not entirely the same position, right? You're not sliding and stuff. So we just went out and we got him some roller skater stuff, and it actually a lot of the kids don't like it because he would skate around those kids. So like what you said about skating, he got to be a very good skater once he took the pads off and in an even environment.
Yeah.
he over delivered, at least from the other players' expectation.
It's funny you say that because when I was in high school, after school, as long as there wasn't snow on the ground or it wasn't raining, me and my buddies would run home, grab our skates, and we would meet up either at this one park that had a tennis court fenced in without any nets up, or a grade school parking lot, and we would just play hockey, until it got
Mm-hmm.
dark out, or we had practice ourselves. And nobody ever played goalie. We just, set up a can at either end, just like in Mighty Ducks 2. You tip the can over there. There's the goal. And my teammates were always amazed that me and the other goalie, like, you guys are pretty good. Like, you can skate and you're pretty fast, and like you can shoot, and you've got, you can pass and all of that stuff. We're like, well, yeah, like, we're athletes. We're not, just because we're a goalie doesn't mean we don't know the game. Doesn't mean we don't practice the
Right.
stuff on our own either. It's kind of funny.
Right.
I remember when I was coaching in Forest Lake, I was doing some of our fall training, because as a volunteer coach, I wasn't technically considered a coach. So we were able to skirt the rules a little bit on who could and couldn't be on the ice with the boys in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
And our head coach was watching a scrimmage the one day, and we were short guys on the one side. So I was hopping out playing defense. And after the scrimmage, he looks at me, he goes, you're not a bad player. And I said, what did you expect? Like, I'm one of the coaches. I should know the game. I should have some hockey sense out there. And he's like, yeah, I suppose. I just kind of assumed, being the goalie coach, you weren't paying too much attention to what else was going on. I was like, no, we need to know what else is going on before we can start focusing on our own position.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people forget that. It's like, yeah, we need to learn all these X's and O's of how to play goalie and understand it. But if we don't know what's going on in front of us, it doesn't matter. We have to anticipate what's going to happen. And if we don't understand systems and everything else, we can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's
so
watching my son learn that hockey sense. The only downside is the players don't want to listen when he wants to, coach from the bench. Like, no, this is what I just saw out there. You need to listen. You missed it. I saw it. I'm trying to teach you. And most of them, too stubborn, immature, whatever it is, they just don't really want to listen to the goalie tell them how to play defense. And
heck, you've skated with my beer league team. They even have issues with that. When I come to the bench between periods, I'm like, hey, fellas, we need to do this, we need to do that. And they just look at me, they're like, just stop the puck. And I was like, I'm trying to, but if you did this or that, it would be easier. Right. And I mean, speaking of my beer league team, I mean, you talk about that hockey sense. There's a few guys where they have the skill, but they don't have that hockey sense. And then there's, one defenseman in particular who doesn't necessarily have the skill, but he's got the hockey sense. So it's interesting on how much hockey sense can make up for lack of skill.
Mm-hmm.
So you were mentioning, you stepped away from playing for a while. Then your son starts playing, and I'm guessing you got the bug. You got that itch. Like, I want to do what he's doing. So how did that go down?
I think I made it a year of him playing goalie before I actually did anything about it. But it was actually at the same time my wife was starting roller derby. And it was like, all right, the kid's got a sport, you've got a sport, I get a sport. And then I just started buying gear and buying more gear, and joined the AHA and Hockey Finder, and worked my way around JMS. It's been 5 years now.
And how was that transition back into the game? Did it just come back to you, or was it rough?
It was a mixed bag. Some of it was harder than I thought it was going to be. Some of it turned out to be easier. Playing in the mid 90s and then now the style's different. You haven't changed your style, but almost everybody else does.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so learning a style that didn't exist yet was probably the harder part, but I'd kept myself in good enough shape that it wasn't too physically overwhelming, just on the joints.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No, that's awesome. And I apologize. I'm slightly distracted. I just got a family group text that my nephew's at boot camp, and he just got we just got the phone call that he passed his big test. He's now technically a sailor. So, exciting for him, the family. So, yeah, I think in 3 weeks he graduates. So that's kind of fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good
So
for him.
you get back into it. You got to start getting equipment. How was it going through finding what you liked? Because, as I learned a little under a year ago, the equipment's a lot different today as it was when we were kids.
It was really exciting because I didn't have any expectations. I wasn't trying to replace something old. I was starting over, so everything was new. So it left just all the possibilities. I wasn't too worried about. I don't want that because But I probably bought 3 or 4 pairs of pads in the first year, figuring out sizing and what kind of strapping, all just what fits what fits my body, and and then I ordered brand new gear for about 2 years, and just I thought I knew what I wanted, and I'm still using that spec, and it worked for me.
Now, you ordered new gear after about 2 years, after kind of feeling your way through, doing the used route, but you got a set that you ordered. Has it come in yet, or?
The set we're waiting for. My son set? No,
I
no,
thought you were getting a set too. So it's just your son's
those
getting
are
a set.
Those are his. Yeah.
Okay.
All
right.
I think we're
now.
Yesterday was 29 weeks. So.
Hey, I know how that goes. So, as your son gets older, though, I mean, how close is his stuff going to be to where you can be like, you know what? I'm taking the gloves tonight. I want to see how they are.
We're in the same size for everything now, and we use almost everything. So his favorite glove now is the Vaughn, the 2-piece V7.
Okay.
And it's very similar, right? It's probably the closest thing they make to a 5500. The velocity, the 2-piece velocity gloves are pretty similar there. I think they now have like a hybrid split web, and he likes the full 2-piece double web. But the top's different, right? So it doesn't have that big. The cuff looks different on the top, but it still plays the same. And, and he's probably had, he's gone through the 5500s. I think he played 19500, some Ventus stuff, but he likes that classic 2-piece. And so we share that specific piece of gear. The skates are a little smaller than mine, but where everything else is the same.
So what I'm hearing is when the new stuff comes in, it might find its way into your bag for a skate, just so that you can see how it is, right?
Yeah. I mean, it might not be till next summer if he's going to be skating 4 or 5 days a week. But well, so my son in his gear selection is a little bit weird. He still likes leather straps. So we're getting brand new gear for a 14-year-old with leather straps. We looked at all the leg wraps, and you want to try this? No, how about this instead? Like, no, we're just, so the old. I'm gonna say old school, but it's not really that old. The two leathers and a leather professor strap, kind of like Martin Jones.
Yep.
Had a setup just like that. So it's you don't see a lot of kids wearing new pads.
Yeah.
With that kind of.
Don't come to me saying, "Oh, they got a bunch of leather straps," until they have 7 like the pads I just replaced. 7 on each pad.
Right. Yeah.
I still remember when I went out. I got to a Hockey Finder game over at Fogarty early, and I've told this story before on the pod. And there was a high school team out there for a summer skate, and only one goalie showed up. And the coach is like, "Hey, if you can get ready, you want to come out and take some shots?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." Between drills, the goalie's standing by me, and he just kind of looks behind. He goes, "What's with all the straps?" I was like, "Well, let me tell you, kid, this is how they used to be. And back in my day, you would tighten them as close, as tight as you could, almost like a tourniquet, to cut off circulation because you don't want rotation." And he was like, "I don't get it though. Like, why? Like, why do you need so many of them?" He's like, "I've only got 2 Velcro straps on mine." But yeah, I like that professor strap. I have it on mine, and I don't know if I would like them without that professor strap.
Yeah, so I've got 2 sets of on for myself, and the second one was a demo pair that had a professor strap before it was orderable, and
yeah, before it was cool.
It's the best part of between that and the quick slide. That's those are that's I don't use my custom set anymore because that demo set is perfect with all the features that weren't available yet when I ordered mine.
Yeah, and that's tough because like as soon as you order a set, the next like generation comes out and you're like, "Oh man," because I remember it was like a week after I ordered mine, and I went with custom graphic, and I love it, and I wouldn't have done it any different. But like a week after the new SLR3 graphic came out, I was like, "That's kind of a cool graphic." I wouldn't have gotten it, but I would have liked to have known about it.
Sure.
Yeah, I think with where my order was at, I could have argued, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. I went to high school kind of with one of the local Vaughn reps, and talking to him while doing this whole process. The same problem. He went years without getting any gear because he knew ahead of time what was coming, and never was ready to decide. So it's even worse knowing what's coming 6 months or a year early, and even you can't have it yet, and you're just watching the technology change in front of you. And it is just so overwhelming. He just never bought one. Or last time we talked gear, he still hadn't pulled the trigger on anything new.
Yeah, I mean, I love my set. I wouldn't change anything on it. If I did, it would just actually be removing the top leather straps that are only there for aesthetic purposes. They serve no purpose. And I'm at the point now where it's like, that's one more strap on each pad I got to take off after a game when I could be drinking a beer. But I do have the leather strap that goes under under the boot, the leather boot strap, and I wouldn't take that off. I know some people do. I just feel I need that. So, but again, I wouldn't change anything. I love the specs. I love the graphics. Everything about them is great. So
I wasn't so sure about the red stripe at first. I liked just the solid black and white, but the longer you've had them, the more I've gotten used to seeing them, and it bothers me less now. But that was my question at first. Like, I don't know if I like that red.
I really went back and forth on that because even through youth hockey, high school, well, obviously through college and whatnot, but I really only ever had black and white equipment because a lot of the stores in Chicago, that's what they would carry because it goes with any team.
Right.
But as a kid, being a Hawks fan, I always wanted red, white, and black, equipment. It was like, I like the color scheme. And I went back and forth. It's like, I don't want too much red. I don't want it to, be like in your face. So I just wanted little accents. And so I got it on the gloves and it was okay. But the way the red was on that pad, it was almost too much red normally. In fact, there's somebody shared a picture this week of some of the old 4000s that were red, white, and black. And it's basically that inner circle was all red. And I'm like, that's just too much. But I remember, I think it was Freddie Brathwaite when he was in St. Louis had just that yellow line, like that red one I have on there. And it's like, that's just as much red as I needed. And then when I was working with Ev over at Vaughn, he kind of did all the trim work because I just created the front in Illustrator, created how I wanted it. And I was at the cabin the day after I placed the order, and he calls me. And so I'm sitting by the lake talking to him. And he's like, well, can you go on the customizer and just kind of do the back so that we can get this going? I was like, yeah, I'll see if I can find some internet here and get it done. He's like, let's just talk through it on the phone. And he added some red and, was kind of doing it and would shoot me screenshots. I was like, you know what? I kind of like it with just, the little trim with red. And yeah, I went back and forth with it too, but I really like the way it turned out. It looks good.
Yeah, no. And so, I remember you telling me, they're like legacy graphic, we're doing it. And it's like, yeah. It's you can't. I mean, I if I had to go vintage, it'd probably be the triangular white kind of spike that goes up into from the toes. Yeah. That's a little more my speed, one. But yeah, it was used. I know Vaughn used it on everything. Lafray used it.
Yeah, I know. One of the Carolina goalies for the Hartford throwback went with that one. But that was basically the Chris Osgood had that graphic, and he had that. In fact, one of my high school goalie teammates, he had that toward the end of his high school years. But no, some of those classic Vaughn graphics, I mean, we're starting to see them come back. I'm kind of surprised that I've only seen my set, and then the other person that got the Theodore tribute set. Like, those are the only two that have done that legacy, and I'm shocked that there hasn't been more. But I say give it time.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, the V4 graphic's been hitting pretty hard lately, so yeah, it's going to have its turn again.
Yeah, well, that V4 one, it's the Jonathan Quick graphic, and he just keeps it alive,
right?
So, I mean, that is a cool graphic, though. I like that one, and so it's not bad. That was kind of the start of their tribal graphic phase, and that was their best attempt at it. So away from the rink, you've got an interesting little project going on too, in that you bought an old Corvette and you are restoring this thing. And I say restoring it, like you are rewiring the whole car, like you are going full on Tim the Toolman Taylor on this thing.
Yeah. Yep. More power.
Yeah.
Not gonna grunt.
Yeah, more power. So, what was it about that particular Corvette that that was your white elephant? You wanted to get it?
Oh man, I don't even. There was a guy in the neighborhood. Coincidentally, mine's a '76 and his was a '76. But they've got just the pointy nose and the big fenders. And what I like about is it 77 and older, I don't like that big bubbly back window. Like,
yeah,
more hatchback look. And what's really, it's a little side note, those don't open in those later 70s Corvettes. So it's like, it looks like a hatch, but it's not a hatch. It's like, well, I don't want a hatch that I can't open. We're just gonna. But so they call this body style the sugar scoop because it's got the flat window and then the sails around the sides of it. But it's so angular and it's mean and it's like 1.5 inches off the ground. Everything about it. It's got that, just the muscle car aggression, and then it's as long as I can remember. that's the car I wanted. Aside from, you get into like a Lamborghini phase in middle school, right? Every boy's
Yep.
been there. But aside from that, this is the car I've wanted my entire life, and bought one
Yeah.
during COVID, and I'm about a year behind in my 5-year plan, but it's
So
it.
you see this vet for sale. How does
Mhm.
that conversation go with your wife where you're like, you know what? I want to go buy an old Corvette that needs a lot of work, which translates into spending more money on this car. How did that conversation go?
I blacked out. I don't even remember. I somehow even got permission to spend upwards of $20,000 in it, like in the project phase. So
Yeah.
I don't. I have no advice on how to have that conversation because I don't remember. But it worked, and I guess that I
You
did
asked
have
and
to,
she said yes.
more or less. The only ultimatum I had was I had to get rid of a few motorcycles, and I've gotten rid of 3 since then. Not quite what I promised, so I've under delivered on that. But I like to have too many projects, and so I had to compromise. I got rid of the things I was never going to finish, and
Right.
got something I'm going to finish eventually.
Well, that was for years. I was like, I want to get new equipment, but I'm cheap and everything else. And through COVID, yeah, I mean, we did so many projects around the house, but we did them ourselves. And
Hmm.
my wife was finally like, the money you've saved, go get your. She was like, do you want some new equipment? And I was just like, well, yeah. And she's like, well, let's go to Pure Hockey and look around. And I was like, if I'm getting equipment, I'm going to get custom equipment. I'm not buying off the shelf. And she's like, ooh, who are you thinking, custom equipment? My brother-in-law, he played hockey, he played junior hockey and everything. And he's like, no, goalies get custom equipment because of things like strapping and fit. Like it's
Hmm.
not that out of the ordinary. And he kind of explained it to her. And she was like, okay, well, how much is that going to cost? And I told her, and I was pretty honest. And she's like, okay, like a little apprehensive. She's like, go for it. And so I quickly ran for my phone and texted my college teammate who has a pretty sweet Mike Richter Vaughn tribute set up. And I was like, who did you work with that to get that set up? And it was one of the guys he coaches with from General Sports out in Edina. And he gave me the info and I texted Tori and was like, let's get this going. And he helped me get it. But it was like, as soon as I was given the green light, I was like, let's get this done as soon as possible. I'm not leaving any chance for minds to change or anything else. And
Right.
yeah,
Whether it's a Corvette
it
or
was
goalie
needed to,
pads.
yeah. But
Yeah,
I mean,
you get permission, you just got to do it. You can't slow down because the
yeah.
permission is going to go away.
And my wife, God love her. I mean, she's like, the 22 years we've been together, like you've never asked for anything. And this is the
Hmm.
only thing you've ever asked for. So like, who am I to say no? Like, she's like, all the stupid stuff and other stuff I've asked for over 22 years, like it pales in comparison.
Hmm.
So she's like, yeah, you've earned it. Go for it. And she could see my stuff was starting to fall apart. It
Hmm.
was toward the end of its life. As much as I took care of it and had it repaired, like it only had so much time left in it. It was
I
on life support at that point.
Yeah, seeing you use that old gear, I wouldn't have thought it had as much mileage because I would have just assumed it had died long before now.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
yeah, you drug them to the finish line.
I really did. I mean,
But
the first 4+ years I had them, I was skating 6+ days a week,
hmm.
7 in the summertime. So, I mean, just the first 4 years I had them, they got more use than most pads get in a lifetime.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I took them up to Georgia's in St. Paul a couple times to new straps or bindings sewn a little tighter shut. I think at one point they had to put a little stuffing back in them too. So there was that. The only thing I haven't replaced at this point now are my skates and my chest protector. And some people are like, "Oh, you need to get a new chest protector." And it's like, well, that thing's holding up just fine. It's not falling apart. And so, and I kind of like the mobility of it. It's not as bulky as the new ones.
Yeah, well, and the only thing, I mean, you're going to wear gear out, but biggest thing with chest protectors, in my experience, is the elastic. Once the elastic goes, the whole thing, it's never going to fit right. And, I did had a chest protector re-strapped or whatever, again, at George's.
Yep.
And for the price of that, it's like, oh, well, this thing's basically brand new. And, that was great. I like to tell people, since you brought George's up, I like to tell people I've put Dan's kids through daycare for the last couple of years. I was in there every other week, every third week for a long time.
Oh, they just do such great work there. And I mean, some of the repairs I had, it came back as like, this is better than when it was brand new.
Yeah. And Dan is excited about it.
Yeah.
He wants to make what you want right. And his satisfaction in goalie equipment is inspiring.
I remember the first time I brought my leg pads in there, and like just the look on his face, he was excited to see, a pair of pads like that and get to work on them. So it's like he takes pride in his work and he does good work. And there's a reason they are not just known in Minnesota, but NHL teams, when they're in town, they'll bring their stuff over there for a reason. He's great at what he does. I remember when I had Essen from the Bay Area Hockey Repair on, like he even speaks highly of, George's. He's like, they're the gold standard.
Mm-hmm. I even refer non-goalie people, like, I know these guys, you need new soles on your shoes. You go to that. You go to George's, So I've referred non-hockey equipment people to George's. If they're going to take care of whatever you bring. This episode sponsored by George's.
Exactly. Well, I remember growing up, when I got into hockey, my mom actually worked at a shoe store, and the guy she worked with, he played hockey, and so he helped us pick out my first pair of skates and everything. And John's still part of the family. But I needed something fixed on, one of my pads at the time. We're like, well, where do we go? And he's like, there's the shoe repair place right down the street from your house. He's like, take them there. And we're like, but it's hockey equipment. He goes, trust me. And he goes, and even better, the guy plays hockey. He skated with the guy that ran the shoe repair place. And I learned right then and there that shoe repair guys are the best place to take your hockey equipment, because everything they're working with shoes is what's used in not just goalie equipment, but hockey equipment. So they know their way around it. And you come to find out how many of them actually play hockey too. So they get excited about it. But then we're spoiled up here with George's, who I think they bill themselves as a shoe repair shop that, specializes in hockey equipment. I think they're really a hockey equipment repair shop that specializes in shoe repair.
Yeah, you can't. That seems to be the shoe legacy. You have to keep it, right?
Yeah,
but
exactly. And it's it's right down there in St. Paul. What is that, on Grand Avenue? It's just kind of like walking back into a Norman Rockwell painting when you go in that shop too.
Yeah.
So.
I miss those guys. I haven't been in there because all our gear is good. But no, that's that atmosphere. Just you walk in and they know you, and it's a comfortable place to hang out. It gets a little crowded in that tiny storefront, but
there are two issues I have with George's. One is parking down there is horrible. But that's St. Paul. And two, like you said, it's so small. It's not like they just built the place. It's small for a reason. That's what it was years ago when they opened. So it's like, yeah, I kind of wish it was a little more like Hans's and the Mighty Ducks, where it had equipment to look at and everything else was like that's not who they are. That's not what they are. But still, it's like if you could put George's and the Hans's skate shop, it would almost be idyllic.
Yeah, I have childhood memories of going to Strauss, and you have to have been to Strauss, right? You can't live here and not have gone there. But it's changed
So
in the 30 years. But that was kind of how I felt, like in the Mighty Ducks. Like that was just the cool hockey place.
Oh yeah.
But
so I've been in Minnesota. I graduated in 2003. We're closing in on 20 years since I moved up here. And when I got my pads, I don't know why I was stupid, because I sharpen my skates maybe once a year. I like them really dull. But there was some rust on them, so I was like, they need it. So I sharpened my skates right before the first time I wore my new pads, and I looked like a baby giraffe learning to walk the first time out there, not only because of the pads, but because of the sharp skates. But I finally went to Strauss. I was like, you know what? I really don't trust pure hockey with my goalie skates. The fellas over at Revolution and Vadnais, they do a good job. I've taken mine there the past couple times. So I was like, let me just I was right over that way. I was like, let me go into Strauss. And I was like, yeah, that has the Hans's feel to it. But it's small. It's cramped in there. But you go in there, they have 3 skate sharpeners going. They got all the old skates up on the wall. It's a cool place to just kind of hang out and, walk around while they're sharpening your skates. So I want to be mindful of time, in part because I smell the brisket tacos my wife is cooking downstairs.
I will be right over.
Yeah, that brisket has been in the oven all day, and like if they could put that smell into a candle, it would be amazing. Forget this lavender and eucalyptus. Give me the smell of brisket in a candle. But if you've listened to any of my episodes, I end everyone with a list of 10 questions. Same 10 I've asked every guest. And the first one is, what's the craziest coaching moment from your playing days where a coach just lost it? And I suppose we can include your son's playing days too, because I know there's some crazy coaches in White Bear.
So it'll be my son's. It's the first time I wasn't the coach lashing out at the players. And it was like they weren't even one cycle through this drill, and he blows the whistle and he is just screaming, "If you can't do this drill without effing up my drill, we're just going to do something else." And then, they got them all back in a line. I had never seen anybody else in our association, at least, yell at the kids. And it was just like, that's refreshing. And it's probably not the right reaction to have, but it was just like that. I'm here for that. So,
yeah, I'm all about the gentler coaching approach of, let's not always be Bear Bryant out there, but we still need to yell at them a little bit and let them know who's in charge, and that, you need to pay attention.
Well, not to get too far off on the out of your questions, but I've noticed that's just the difference in the levels of youth hockey. You got to, there's more discipline at one end versus the other, and you don't want to let them get away with being sloppy. There's a reason those kids are, get better and stay better. There's discipline and some maturity that's learned from being held accountable, and that's what that meant to me. Like he lost it on, and they're like 12 and 13-year-olds, so but like, you're making them accountable. You are teaching them the right way to do it, not just do it to get it over with. So that was.
Right. Well, look at Team Iceland and the Mighty Ducks too. They had incredible discipline, and they were one of the best teams at the tournament.
All those
I
movies are
mean,
so cringe now.
you know what though? They're cringe, but they're still great.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
as pointed out, if you go back and watch, I think it's Mighty Ducks 2. I call him Benny the Jet because it's the same actor, but the kid who couldn't stop, he's skating, and on the wide shots, he's right-handed, but on the tight shots, he's left-handed. It's like they paid no attention to uh, accuracy in those regards. And now they have the Mighty
I'm
Ducks Game Changers series out, and it's not much better in that
yeah.
regard, but I still love it.
I'm gonna have to watch D2 again just to see if I can catch that. I might have watched it once with my son, but I wasn't paying that close of attention, and I wasn't paying that kind of attention when I was 10, 11, 12 when that movie came out. So
Right. No.
I'll have to,
No.
have to watch that again.
Yeah, when the new series came out, my daughter started watching it. She's like, the new Mighty Ducks series out, let's watch it. And I was like, okay. And so then every Friday, I think it was coming out, we would sit down and watch it together. And I was like, anything that brings me and my 14-year-old daughter at the time together to watch it, I'm all for it. So I loved season 1 of Game Changers. Well, now season 2's out, and last week she's like, Dad, the new season's out. Are we gonna sit down and watch it? And I was like, absolutely, we are. Not as good as season 1, but still, I was like, this is great. I love it. Give me 25 episodes this season. I'm here for it.
Yeah, no, we all 4 of us with my daughter. We watched the first episode on Saturday, and the out of all the disbelief you have to suspend, they're not going to send paying customers home.
No,
we're going to give you a full refund and kick you out. No, they're going to let you. They're going to keep your money one way or the other, whether you stay or not. You're not getting a refund.
Yep.
But that was the fakest part of that episode to me. So
yeah, it'll be fun to see if Josh Duhamel actually gets on the ice.
Yeah. So go ahead.
I was going to say, it's a shame they couldn't bring Coach Bombay back, but he stuck to his principles. So what are you going to say?
Yeah. The other thing that I actually talked about that episode with my son, in the one scene, it's Wayne Gretzky, the great one, and then he's interrupted. And then, like I was saying, the great one, Wayne Gretzky, nobody really talks like that. Like you have to explain it, to the normies watching a hockey show, but it's like, nobody talks like that about Wayne Gretzky.
Right.
In
they
real
just call
life,
him Gretzky.
Right. And it's like, that part bothered me the most. Like, you don't talk like that.
Yeah.
Or calling it states. Ugh.
Yeah. Well, we had the conversation at the dinner table last night where I mentioned the term hockey pants, and like the whole family looked at me and was like, hey, you go outside of Minnesota and everywhere else in the world calls them hockey pants. We're the only ones that call them breezers. And like, I was like, that's dumb. Why would you call them hockey pants? They're shorts to begin with. I was like, I don't make up the rules. It's just how it is. And like she's like, I don't think they call them hockey pants in Canada. So like I brought up the Source for Sports website. I was like, here they are. It's like pure hockey. They have their locations in Minnesota, but they still call them hockey pants because so many of their customers are outside of the state. And like the overwhelming response was, well, that's just dumb. I was like, well, you know what? People in Wisconsin also think all of us that call water fountains are probably dumb too.
Yeah.
So the next question, what's your favorite all-time goalie mask?
Favorite all-time goalie? There's so many different all-time favorites. I'm going to say Brizgalov just because he's so incredibly goofy, like, as a person. That's
which one of his looks? He had a couple.
Oh, I don't know. can't pick. But that's
I mean, his
that
wild
was the
one was
first thing
pretty
that came to
cool.
mind. I'm sorry?
Yeah, I was gonna say his wild one was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had some decent ones. He had personality even in his mask.
Hmm.
But yeah, he's a gem, that's for sure. I know Patrick Royce loved having him in town because he likes a good quote. So the next question is, what's your favorite rink that you've played at?
My favorite rink. What's the wild training rink?
Oh, the Tria
What do
rink?
they call that? Tria. Yeah, that's probably been my favorite rink, and it has nothing to do with the wild, but you're up on top of that building. It's usually too dark to see out the window, but the ice is always perfect.
Yeah.
And
I haven't had a chance to skate there yet, but I want to. Um, I skate with the For the Love of Puck group every once in a while, and every time they were there, I would go on and look and see if they needed a goalie, but those spots were always filled. So I was like, shucks. Um, but I'll get there. I know I will. So
yeah,
what
no,
is
that's it was.
your? Yeah, go on.
Oh, it was with the love of puck. The two or three
Oh,
or
yeah,
four times I've been there. So
yeah. I see that group is over in Germany right now on their. I don't know if it's become annual or biannual, but their European trip when they put a team together and go play in a
well,
tournament or two.
it
And
feels like they just went to Sweden or something with that.
yeah,
So it can't be even a whole year ago. So
I know Kaz is trying to do something every year.
yeah,
And I would love to go, but as I told him, I said it's really hard for me to justify to my wife, like, hey, I'm going to spend this much money to go to Europe without you and play hockey. Um, and his response is, well, bring her with. And I was like, I would
yeah,
love
right.
to, but following a bunch of stinky hockey players around Europe is not her idea of a European vacation. Hers involves a spa and good food and some shopping. Like I get it. Uh, so we'll see. Maybe when the kids are done with school, which is not that far down the road. Um,
Yeah.
so, what is your favorite goalie stick that you've ever used?
I really liked the Vaughn foam core that are now
Yes.
impossible to find. That those are my favorite, and I abused far too many of them, so I deserve them not to be available. But that was, if I could find those again, I'd buy a
I
dozen.
you I was using one the last year. I found it on prohockeystock.com, and it was a
Hmm.
Keith Kincaid return. And I saw it, and it was the same colors as my pads. It's like, well, of course I got to get it. Um, and I was using it all the way up until this fall season when I saw a Colin Delia Warrior foam core pro return that had the trigger grip, and I wanted to try the trigger grip. So I bit the bullet and bought that one, and I love the trigger grip, but I also love that Vaughn stick. So I'm kind of like going back and forth, like, which one do I use? But yeah,
Yeah, I
those
wish the foam core is, in general, they're going away, right?
they
So I
are.
wish they were affordable and they were durable and and
Yep.
durable enough, I suppose. But
You know,
yeah,
if Sherwood brought back the old, was it the 5950 wooden goalie stick, I bet beer leaguers would eat them up. They brought back the Featherlight player stick for beer leaguers,
hmm,
and they sell pretty good. So I think they should look into bringing back the old 5950 because I know a lot of people that would probably buy them.
I'd probably buy one just to have one too.
Yeah. Have you checked out the Christian goalie sticks? They're making them now. You can buy them in bundles of 3 direct from Christian. I've considered getting a couple of them, but I think they're foam core.
Yeah, I have looked at them, but it becomes an argument. Do I want to? Am I gonna like them? Is the curve the same? You end up with the size differences. Is a half inch taller, half inch shorter. Am I going to like
Yeah.
these? Are they going to be worth it? And of course, they probably are. And just make an excuse, not to try them.
I wish, we could go to the pro shop and see them, touch them, feel them, or at least have them show up to the Let's Play Hockey Expo so you could check them out. But they haven't. So there is kind of that blind trust. And it's like, well, if I'm going to order one, you got to order them in a minimum of 3. And it's like, that's a commitment. And it's like, what if I don't like it though? So
Right.
yeah, I looked at those too, because I used nutrition sticks in high school and college and everything. So I'm like, I wouldn't mind having another one. Yeah. So the next question, what's your favorite youth hockey memory?
Oh, I don't know if I don't have any of my own. It was too long ago to have anything to stand out.
Too many hockey pucks to the head to remember them, right?
We can say that I've in my life I've had 2 loss of consciousness concussions. One playing beer league hockey, so there might be some brain damage, but yeah. So that's youth hockey. Watching my son like he had a tournament last year. He had like 48 saves in a game against like Wyzetta. They didn't win, but he led the goalie stats for the entire tournament.
That's awesome.
Almost because of that one game. So having that, it made it, if nothing else, it made it easy to say you had a great game.
Yeah.
And you don't worry about the loss, because if you look at this, this, you did your job better than anybody could have asked you to do. So watching games like that my son can carry, but that one game at that one tournament is the one that still stands out.
Yeah, it's funny. I've started using that Stop It Goaltending Game Day app, because I record my games, and then I'll just look at, see, did I play as bad as I thought, or did I play better? Because one of their stats on there after you've tracked the game and everything is expected goals against versus actual goals against, because they figured with algorithms, everything else, like in that game, based on situations, you should have let in X number of goals, And so like the last game, we lost 5-0 against the top team in the league. And I'm going, I felt like I played pretty good. And then I tracked the game. It's like, yep, I was right on target I should have let in 5 goals that game. So I kind of like that, because, you might have that bad game if you look at the scoreboard, but when you look at it that way, it's like, yep, that was cool. So the next question is, what's the worst post-game beer you've had?
Worst post-game beer.
Or post-skate.
Yeah. I don't remember what it was. I'd never heard of it before. It was just too dark and European. There was an umlaut in it. I don't.
Heavy beers right after a skate.
Yeah.
Those dark ones right after a skate are tough. I'm gonna guess it was probably a Hockey Finder skate then, because that's where some of the really unique beers have been in the locker room for me.
Yeah, it was a Hockey Finder game I subbed in. It was about 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Yeah, so you're right.
All right. So let me ask this. The person that brought the beer, did it happen to be a girl?
No, this one was not.
Okay, the only reason I say that is I've subbed for a certain team, and this girl brings the beer most of the time, and she always has like really good beer, but not really good for right after a game beer. It's like if I were sitting at the bar with a burger, this would be amazing, but
right,
this is a little heavy for right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when you tape your stick, do you go heel to toe or toe to heel?
Toe to heel. twice.
Why?
I just like to get the nice, crisp, straight lines, and don't want to be able to see through it.
I was going to say, because you're in the minority going toe to heel.
So that's the only way I've ever done it. Is my, when I have to do a player stick or to coach or whatever, same thing. Toe first.
Now, I'm not the one calling you this, but I've had two different guests say goalies that go toe to heel are psychopaths. And I'm not saying you fit that description, but I'm not saying you don't.
I've been called that for many reasons. So if it fits, at least in good humor.
If if the tape job fits.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite number to wear and why?
I try to get 66, and it was the last number I raced with when I was racing motorcycles, and I had taken it from the rider I most admired, Matt Mladen out of Australia. When he wasn't with the number one, he had the 66, so it was just emulating back from when I was racing motorcycles.
That's awesome. And that's always my thing. It's like, if you don't have kind of the traditional goalie number, I don't care, but what's the story behind it? Because there's always a story, and that makes it worthwhile. So the last question, what advice do you have for young goalies?
I
was going to say, for
have
me, it's
fun.
usually...
Don't be too crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What's that?
I was going to say, for me, it's usually... For me, my advice is don't watch my video highlights and try to play like me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
have
but
fun.
You were saying,
don't let them
fun.
think you're too crazy. Yep. Don't be too crazy. And be crazy, but don't want them to think you're too crazy.
Yeah.
And, just find what you like and just enjoy that you like it.
Yeah. Well, and that's important because while I think every young goalie has aspirations to play in the NHL or even pro hockey and even at the collegiate level, the reality is most aren't going to. In fact, most aren't even going to play high school hockey. So just have fun while you're doing it, because competitive hockey is going to end real soon. And then you're on to the beer leagues.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, Jeff, I appreciate you taking time out of your evening. I know we're going to probably see each other here soon at the rinks again. So I look forward to it. And we'll be in touch.
Well, thanks for having me. Enjoy those tacos.
I will. All right. Thanks, bud.
All right. Yeah, thank you.
It's always fun talking to Jeff. I wish his son luck in the upcoming season and can't wait to hear how he and Jeff like the new set of equipment. Follow Jeff on Instagram at Jeff Gipple. That's Gipple, no spaces. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube simply by searching for Wash Up Goalie, and I'll pop up. Visit washupgoalie.com for some great hockey-related content, my beer league hockey video highlights, and of course, all podcast episodes. If you want some Wash Up Goalie or Tendy Talk apparel, be sure to visit my Threadless shop and click the merchandise link on my website. If you like this podcast, go listen to the BLPA Big Show. It's the OG BLPA Podcast Network show where a couple of beer league players talk beer league hockey, draft experience shenanigans, and exploits from around the game. Be sure to check out the full lineup of hockey-related podcasts on the Hockey Podcast Network as well. There are too many to list here, but shows like the Tell It Abs It Is podcast, the Jackets Debrief, and the CB Jectively Speaking Blue Jackets podcast can be found. Switching gears, I'm participating in the October Saves Challenge this month in an effort to help raise money for cancer research and patient care in honor of my mom, who lost her battle with cancer on Mother's Day of this year. If you're in a position to donate, click the link in my bio on any of my social media presences. I've set a lofty goal, but I'm almost a quarter of the way there, with plenty of time left this month. I know the hockey community is a tight-knit community and always there to help each other, so this is just some small way I could honor my mom's memory, and if you're able to help out, thank you. If you're looking for something good to read, get yourself a subscription to Vintage Tendy magazine. Published quarterly, this magazine takes a deep dive into a goalie from the 80s or 90s era. The first 5 issues have covered Felix Potvin, Grant Fuhr, Tim Shovelday, Jocelyn Thibault, Ken Reggett, John Van Beesbrook, and episode 20 guest, mask painter Don Strauss. I need to thank the band Zambonis for allowing me to use their music on all my episodes. You can download their music on iTunes or listen wherever you stream music from. I'm always working on lining up other goalies to talk to, and it's getting harder and harder. If you are a goalie or have connections to a goalie who I should talk to, shoot me an email at washupgoalie39@gmail.com or send me a DM on social media. Let's not forget, if you're a brand who wants to sponsor the show, be sure to reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk. And finally, if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment on the podcast platform you're listening on. It's an easy action on your part that helps others find Tendy Talk. So, until next time, keep your stick on the ice and your body square to the puck.
Checked out Ketchell's Pond. He calls up Tommy Taylor. Tom said the pond, it froze right over. So get the nets and race your skates and get the hot chocolate through your bones today. Get home. Tarkin.
Yeah, dude.
Hey, have you checked out the pond today?
It's funny you ask. I was just down there this morning.
Yeah, any good news?
Well, Dave, the pond?
Yeah?
It's froze right over.